Hi all, we will talk about version control system in this video and what are the different types of version control systems and what is the most predominantly used version control system these days. First, let's talk about version control system. Now, even if you see a general in general about version control system, not in not from the software perspective, you see authors writing books, right? Initially, you will have one version for the book, like you will get first edition of the book, and then after few months or years you will get second edition of the book with few more changes added to it, and you will get third edition also with new features added to that. So you'll have multiple editions of the book. Even if you see a programming language, like let's consider Java programming language, you will have new releases happening, like initial version Java 1, Java 2. Now you have Java 8 release happened, and Java 17 release happened. So in each list you will add few more changes to that. So now let's consider a book as an example. Initial version you will have few changes, book first edition, and second edition you will have few more changes. Let's consider a file on a computer. Now I'll have a file one. Initially I have added few changes to the file one. There can be a set one changes. Now I added few more changes to the file one, and now I saved that. But while saving, I'll save that file. So you will have contents in the same file, but you will have this contents updated, and you will have the modified timestamp also. But in case if I want to track back the changes, means like I want to see what was there before. Now I updated some line. This is this is let's say this is January initially. Two, I updated a single line to this is February, and I saved the file. Let's say I want to see what happened, what was there before before this line. This is February. What was there before? If I want to see what are the changes present, like when I created a file, what is the state of the file or what are the contents present in the file, and later I edited the file. So when I edit the file, I made few changes. Now if I want to go back and see the changes, then you should have some way, right? Let's say I want to save all versions of the file. Now whenever I want to save something, what I can do is, if I want to look back the changes, I will say file 1, first version. I'll save this as file. Initially I'll say file1.txt. Now I added some change to the file. I added a change to the file. Now since I want my changes also, like in future if I want to see what is the change happened to the file, I want to retain those changes. What I can do is, I can maybe I can add file 1 timestamp like this, maybe 7 p.m. File 1, I can add date here .txt, and for the initial file I can add date to the txt. So in this way what I can do is, whatever is the latest date file, I can consider that as a most updated one, and based on the dates you can see. And let's say now I want to see the late updated one. So let's say today is 20th February. Let's consider today is 20th February. Now if I want to take the latest version, I'll take this file. But let's say I want to see the changes that had happened before, which were done on 19th February. So what I can do is, I can go to the file one with this particular date and see the changes and compare both. Like if you want to track the changes that are present, this is the manual way of doing. Now if I want to track the changes that happen to this file, I can do this way, and other persons can do according to their wish. Maybe they can add like this file 1 1, they can add like this file 1 2. So based on the numbering, they can find the recent version and they can go and they can see the older version based on the numbering. This is the manual way of handling a file changes on a computer. But if you take from a software perspective, because in software in software projects, how you work is you have a project and you have a code for that project. Now the multiple developers have to work on that project. Multiple developers have to work on that project, right? So how you track changes happens to that software code. So the version control system helps there. Even before going to the software project, I was talking about there are multiple types of kinds of version control, version controls, right? So there are three kinds of version control systems. One is local version control system, centralized version control system, and then distributed version control system. Now like I'm working on a project and I have code on my local system. Like I have this code on my local system and it consists of multiple files, set of files. Now I will instead of manually saving the files like this, like file1.txt, file2.txt, what I can do is I can use local version control system. What it does is it will have its local database as shown here. See, this is the local database. I checked out some file. So in the local computer, if you use the local version control system, what it does is it has some local database on our computer. So what it will store is whenever you edit a file, I'll make few changes to a file. Whenever you edit a file, what it will do is it will take those changes and it will store those changes in the database, like here. So initially what I have done is I have like initially I created a file. So what it will do is it will save that change as a version 1. Now I added, like I just changed one line from word to two word. I changed it. Now what it will do is it will take only that change and it will save that as a version 2, and later it will save that and later if I make any change it will do as a version 3. Likewise, whenever you make a change, all the changes are saved as a versions in the local database. Examples for the local version control systems are RCS was the local one of the local version control system that was used way back. Now let's say what I have to do now. Because of my code, because of the recent change, I pushed my code to the production and there is some issue, and now I want to revert back my change. What I have to do is I have to revert back the change, right? So using the local version control system, now I'll ask my version control system I want to go back. What it will do is it will calculate the changes between latest version and the older version, and then it will give you the changes. And if you ask the if you ask to revert your change, what it will do is it will revert back to the older version. So you can so your file is in the older version when you revert it. And even I don't want to revert it now. I have made the change, right? Now my peers or the person whoever is reviewing the code, they want to see what was the change before and what I have updated now. So what it will do is what I can do is I can just compare. I can compare the previous change and the current change. What is different from the previous one, and even in future, even after a year, I want to see what are all the changes happen to the file right from the creation. I can see, and if I feel the latest change has some issue, I can revert back. So all these can be done using a version control system. Like let's list, like I'll just write few what version control system helps. Like at any time you can compare. You can compare your changes. You can compare the latest changes happen to the file. And even if there is an issue because of if there is an issue because of a change or because of the latest change, you can revert back. You can revert back to the older versions. So to revert back to the older version, first you should save the older versions there, right? So in the local computer, you have all the versions saved. Whenever you want to compare between, now I'm on version 3, but I want to compare what was the change that had happened between version 1 and version 2. I can compare that using the VCS, version control system. Even I can compare the version 3, version 2, and I can see what all the changes happen between any versions, and I can revert back to any version. Now from version 3, I feel even this version 2 is also not stable. I can revert back to version 1. So all these things we can do using version control system. Now you have a local version control system available, right? So it does all the changes. It does all the changes, like you can track the changes. But why you are not sufficed with the local version control system? Because local version control system is specific to a computer or specific to a user. Only I can track my changes. But in real world software projects, what happens is the project code, whatever you are working, it is being worked upon by multiple developers. It's not just you. So even if I make changes in my local, a developer should be able to see my changes. So there should be a way where I can push my changes, and the other developers can pull those changes, and even a developer too can push the particular file changes. I can view those changes, right? There should be a collaboration that should happen between developers. So for that, if you just go with the local version control system, like I create a project code and I work on that, and I deploy the code to the production, and other developer also, he works on the code and he pushes the code. Now every time whenever I make a change, I can't send my file change to all developers and ask them to pull and ask them to save that file on their local, and then work on those changes. And if they make the changes, then they will push it. Now initially I make a change and I push my code to production. Now another developer, whenever he pushes the code to the production, he should push my change, he should work on my version, because my version is the latest one, right? So for that, what I have to do, I have to mail to all my team members, like this is the change I have done, you save this file on your local and you work on this file. So this is not an ideal way to do that, and there can be multiple manual errors that can happen. People might miss the emails, and they might not save the latest versions, and they will work on the version, they will work on the file that is present on their systems, and they'll push the changes. Your changes won't be there in the product, like your changes gets wiped off then, and that is a big problem, right? That's where there should be a collaboration happen, there should be collaboration that should happen among developers. Like if I make a change, another developer should be able to view it and he should work on that. And let's say if he's not like if he's he's working on the same file simultaneously, and he's pushing some change to the production, then there should be a system that prevents doing that, because there is already a person that had made this change and you should not be doing this. Or even if you do this, you should be aware that a person has already done that change, and it's your wish to either incorporate that or not. There should be a system that should say all these. So that's where a centralized version control system had come. So centralized version control system is like, you have a server that is located, and in the server you have your project repository stored. You have your project repository stored. Now your project repository has some 10 files, and I'm developer A and there are developer B. Like you can see here, computer A, and there is another developer who has this computer B. So what people does is, they pull the changes from the central server. So this computer A and computer B has common files. Now I'll work on my, like, let's say computer A has modified file number B, file B, and he pushed to the central version server. Now computer B can download that file to their computer, and he can work on the changes. He can view these changes, and even if if he wants to work on the same file, he can pull my changes and he can make changes, and he can push back the changes to the server again. So this way collaboration issue is resolved. And one more thing here is you can have this user level control as well, because I can have one admin created for this project or this for the centralized repository, and I can give access to only those developers who has to work on this repository, so that even the access issues is also prevented. And access issues is prevented, and whenever computer B by mistake if he's pushing a file without considering the changes, like computer A has pushed set of files to the server, but computer B has not pulled those changes onto his local, and he is pushing the changes. Now what this server says is, what this version control says is, there are changes that are already made by computer A. First you should be aware of those changes, and then you push the changes. And if both are working on the same file, it creates this merge conflicts, so you have to resolve those. So this way it is much more organized, and collaboration is there, and there are other issues also that are solved. So but the problem, but centralized version server solves almost our issues, but there are few cons of the central version control server. So the cons of the central version control system are, like, I'll add here cons of central version control systems are: one is, you have a single server on which a repository or the code is there. If this server is crashed, if server crashes, then you don't have any backup present. So in this case you will lose all the code. You might say that anyway people has pulled the code to their local, right? Even if the central system is crashed and you don't have any backup, I can pull back. You can create a new server and you can add the changes present in the computer A or B, and you can add these set of files to the version database. But the problem with the central version control system is, now when I check out the files, when your developer check out the files, he can see only the latest version changes. When he checkouts the file, you have only the latest snapshot. Now I check out a file, I check out a project. Now you will have only version 3. You are just checking out the latest snapshot of the project. You are not checking out the complete history, because your project will have lot of history, right? There could be multiple developers who had made the changes even years ago as well. So you should have all those changes, because you might not know, like there can be a situation where you have to roll back to the very much older version as well. So in central version control system, server has all those snapshot changes, but when you check out, you will get only the latest snapshot, latest version changes. You will not get all these version changes. So if the server crashes and you don't have any backup, there is no way to recover the code. So that is the main drawback of the central version control system. Now to avoid this, what people have done is they have developed a distributed version control system. This is the distributed version control system. So in the distributed version control system, what you will have is, you will have multiple systems present. Here you have a your project is distributed among multiple machines. And what happens is, let's say a developer 1 is there, right? Developer 1 and the developer 2, when they check out the file, complete version gets checked out. If you see the difference between the central version system and the local central version and the distributed version. Here you have this version database, version 3, version 2, version 1. But on the computer, you just have normal file changes. You don't have this database changes. But if you see this diagram, right, when a person checks out, he will have, along with the file changes, he has this version database as well. So even if the server crashes, what people can do is they can take the snapshot, they can use the computer A resources, and even if the server crashes, you can spin up a new server and you can take these changes and create a project again. Because you were whenever you check out, you are not just checking out the changes, you are checking out the complete version, complete snapshot. So at any time, what you will have is you will have multiple developers who are having these version changes, and if the server crashes, you can even if the server crashes, you can add these changes back. So you will with this you will have high availability. Even the fault tolerance is also there using the distributed version control systems. Yeah, these are the we spoke about three kinds of version control systems, right? Local version control, centralized, and the distributed. In the local, you don't have the collaboration. That's why you choose centralized version control system. In the centralized version control system, though you have collaboration among the developers, you don't have the complete snapshot of the files, and that's where this fault tolerance and the high availability is not guaranteed. That's why we choose distributed control system, in which multiple machines are there. Even if the multiple systems broke, you have your developers. On your developers mission, you have the complete snapshot or the complete version changes, which can be used to bring back the project back. So now, coming to the examples of local version control systems, are RCS is the example for the local version control system. And for centralized version control system, you have these VCS, Mercurial. These are the examples of the central version control system. And for distributed version control system, Git. These days, most people uses Git as their version control system, which is the distributed control system. And in the coming videos, we will go in depth about the Git version control system and how you install Git, what are the commands that are used to push and pull the changes to the repository. We will discuss about all those. Thank you.